I like that part.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. We're going to call this meeting of the Camden Zoning Board of Appeals to order, June 27th, 2019, for the application for changes in a nonconformity for Matthew and Sarah Lapides. Is that how I say it?
That's right, yep.
Yep. Okay. And present tonight on the board, we have John French, we have myself, Sam Smith, we have Deb Chapman, and Tia Anderson. Tia Anderson's an alternate member, but she will be voting tonight. So we have 4 voting members present, which is less than 5, which means a tie vote could deny the application. So we need to have your approval as the applicants, if that's acceptable.
Yes, that's acceptable.
And then I will ask members to declare any possible conflict of interest that they might have regarding the case before them. Does anyone have any conflict of interest? There are no conflict of interests declared. There'll be a public hearing. The chair will read the rules for conducting the public hearing. Our code enforcement officer will give us a summary, which I believe we can go ahead with that at this time. Steve Wilson.
Yeah, what we're dealing with is,
He needs to open the public hearing.
oh, yes,
Oh, okay. So
right.
we will,
I'm jumping the gun on you, sorry, Sam.
I should have mentioned this. So, public hearing, the purpose of a public hearing is for the public to express their opinions, for the board to gain and gather understanding of the issues before them. We ask that each speaker come to the microphone so your comments can be heard. The meeting is being televised and recorded. The minutes are being taken. Each speaker is to state his or her name and address. Each speaker to direct all comments or questions through the chair. As a matter of courtesy, the board asks that there be no verbal comments or applause in response to remarks made by the speaker. We want to encourage the public to express their opinion. Such outbursts can be intimidating. After everyone wishing to speak has done so, I will close the public hearing. At that point, the select board or the zoning board will discuss the item. Once the public hearing is closed, the board will not take further comment from the public unless a member of the board has a question of a member of the public. We request that you keep your comments brief and to the point. And that's it.
All right, and the reason we're here tonight is it's very similar to last week. We have another non-conforming structure in the shoreline zone. This one is on McGonagall Lake. Part of the building is within the 25-foot setback of the lake. The entire building is within the 100-foot setback. And it also has a sideline encroachment on the northerly border. So the applicants are looking at completely removing this building and would like to set it back to the greatest practical extent, bearing in mind certain, trying to save as many trees and having as little impact on the resource as possible.
Okay, the next item is, we need to have the applicant show standing, and I believe in the packet that's been submitted, there's a deed showing ownership in their names dated April 23rd, 2019. I would make a motion that this is sufficient to show standing of the applicant. Those in favor of it? And then we have this submission by the applicant, prepared by Noriello Studios, Exhibit A through H, as described on the document titled Submission List for the Camden Zoning Board. I would move to accept the applicant's submission as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All those in favor? So now we'd like to have the applicant's presentation. Zell Bowman Labarge, is that, yeah?
The Burge, correct.
Yeah. We'd like to have your presentation.
I'll
you can-
hand it over to Bruce Norilius, if that's all right.
Okay,
She may add some comments. She knows some of the specifics.
there's also an agent authorization letter dated June 10th, 2019. It's the applicant's Exhibit D. I move that we accept that letter of authorization.
Second.
Any further discussion on that? Those in favor? Okay. So I think we can proceed with your presentation, right?
I think I may have come with some more information than you need in some areas, and some of the information may be out of order, but I will try to address all of the things in section 6, I think is the major thing that we want to address tonight. But the basic story of this is this is a family of 4 who've summered on the lake for a long time and rented a house, and they purchased this property just this winter and asked us to design a modest camp that will be used mostly in the summertime, but it will be a winterized house. And so the existing house was built in 1967. It doesn't suit their needs. It has some issues with it. And so they've asked us to design a house there that's less non-conforming than the one that's there now. The existing site, there's a driveway from Codman Island Road that provides access to our client's property, and that driveway goes through their property, but there are there's 3 other properties that are accessed via easements off of that driveway. It's kind of a typical key lot, that it's very narrow at the road and very long and narrow, and expands a little bit toward the shore. There's a large ledge outcropping at the center of the site that starts about 75 feet back from the water, and that plays into what we'll be telling you about why the house is placed where it is. It is a very wooded site with very little understory, except on that ledge area. It's a combination of healthy and unhealthy trees, typical of the area. Currently, what's non-conforming is the size of the lot, which is 42,000 versus the required 60,000. The minimum side frontage, road frontage is 47 feet rather than 150. And then the side yard setback of the house existing is less than 15 feet. And as Steve said, the distance from the house to the water, the porch is less than 25 feet. What the proposed design, again, the narrative, and I can give you then the numbers, but what we're trying to do is, 1, make a less non-conforming house than the existing house. What we've been doing is we've designed a house that's 2 stories, so it minimizes the footprint on the property. It moves back from the water in 2 directions from the existing house, because the profile of the shore there is actually not straight, it curves, and so 2 sides of the house will move back from the water. It moves back as far as possible from the water, and leaving just a modest space for parking in back. There is another part of the lot that we will put a garage and the septic system on, which is outside the 250-foot shoreline zone. So we have pushed the house back as far as we can, leaving 2 parking spots. And then we can't go any further because there's this large ledge outcropping. that starts at that point. And to build on that ledge outcropping would be pretty hard because it's big. It seems like it would be pretty invasive and ecologically destructive to the site to try to move back there. So what we've done is move back as far as we can from the water without disturbing that ledge. We've also tried to locate the house so that there's a very big canopy of trees that extends to the other properties there. And so the few trees that we're taking down are either one, unhealthy and need to come down according to the arborist who we've retained to help us, or they're in the footprint of the new house. But the trees that we're taking down, in the opinion of the arborist, don't disrupt the canopy of trees that extends to the other neighboring sites. So we've been trying to be sensitive to not create a big hole in the forest canopy. We're working with Robert Cochran, the arborist, to help us with this. And we're planning on any trees that need to come down, we will work with the CEO to establish the quantities and the species of trees to be replanted to mitigate the ones that are being removed. And like I said, garage and septic system will be completely out of this zone. So that's kind of the narrative of this. And then, so now would it be useful to go through each one of those sections to talk about the numbers that you see on the description here? As far as distance from the water.
This front page cover, is that what you're talking about?
Front page of the, there's a site plan that has a bunch of information on the side here.
A 1.01 sheet. Yeah.
Would that be useful?
I think it would.
I'll tell you, to be
unless-
truthful with you, I can read it. It's too fine for me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's okay. No,
We
it's
have
not.
we have a full size.
Right,
one.
that's why I'm glad for Steve.
So it's A1.01 is the, oh, wait a minute, that's different than that one, John.
There's this one here.
That's it, that's it.
How are you gonna address the 15 feet where the Burgess property, you said it was close on the setback, the side lot?
The current house is, the proposed house is beyond that setback.
It'll come out of that 15 foot?
He's actually correcting two nonconformities, the 25-foot setback and the 15-foot setback on the north side.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood, because I thought we referred, when he said the setback, I thought it was talking about the 25 feet because of the layout of the land, and then I
Yeah.
didn't think about the 15. Thank you.
He
No, I didn't
actually,
mean to steal this away from you.
No, you didn't steal it.
But
That's why I put it there.
just so
You're
you
the man
can all
in the
look
center.
in. So, yeah, continue on there, Bruce.
Okay. Okay, so according to Section 6, changes in non-conforming structures in the shoreland areas, it's allowed to expand non-conforming structures up to 30% more than the existing building volume. We're actually decreasing the existing building volume from 37,000 feet. We could be allowed to, cubic feet,
48, or,
go up to 48, but
Go up to
our
48.
proposed design is 33,944 cubic feet. The maximum expansion allowed in the footprint would allow up to 3,547 square feet, and our proposed is 2,152 square feet. The maximum building height within the 75-foot height of the high water line is no higher than the existing building, which is 21 foot 8. We are just sneaking under that because we're now building 2 stories to try and get the footprint smaller, but we are at 21.7. So we've really set the building down as much as we can on the property. The maximum building height within 100 feet of the high water line is 25 feet, and we're going very close to that too. Again, to try and get it's the one place where we're trying to get some space in the house.
So I'm slightly confused on that one, where, what's the difference between these two? We've got is that the two different buildings, Bruce, or is this?
No, so up to the 75-foot line,
Okay.
up to the
okay.
75-foot line, you can build a certain height, and then out of that, you
I
can
got
get a
it.
little
Yeah,
higher.
Deb just explained it, and
That's what we're doing.
On
I
sheet-
stumbled over it. Yeah.
On sheet A, 1.03, it sort of shows a section, and it's pretty clearly shown, sort of the elevation
Okay.
lines there.
Yes, there's probably, like, all of this information is here. It's probably more information than you want to, but
Yeah, yeah,
we can
no, you
refer
can-
to, we can go through those too.
Okay, so I got that concept, did you, John?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, continue, or,
Just,
You don't need to,
this is all stuff that the board is not going to be reviewing. We might
Right.
want to just concentrate on the relocation,
Okay.
just because the actual height of buildings and that type of thing ends up being tossed back into my hands
Okay.
Okay.
at that point in time.
So what, I forget, what is our distance from the water? Do you know?
we've been getting a lot of stuff that we wouldn't be,
We don't need
you know,
we don't
even
need,
know.
yeah, yeah.
That's Steve.
Sorry.
That's okay, no, it's very good, you did a good job.
Some of it does play in, but some of it doesn't,
Right.
so.
You know, what I'm embarrassed to say, Steve, is one thing, I know we have the distance from how far we're moving back the house from the water, but I don't have it on the drawing, and so I'm trying to remember what that distance is. It's about 40 feet that we would move back the house to 40 feet from the water line. Yeah, because the,
I think it's 41. I think.
41, thank you.
Yeah, I think it
I know I
actually-
had it somewhere, but I
I
don't.
think it actually was stated on there.
Yeah, that makes me think.
Want this big one, Steve?
Actually, I was
I'll
looking,
admit it, my eyes aren't as good as they used to be.
I just got new glasses, so I'm pretty good.
Okay. So we're looking for the dimension that he's talking about.
I don't know if there is one there,
I don't know that there's a scale here, but it's the difference between there and there, right?
Right, but if she's showing from the high water to the building,
Well, truth be known, the number we need to know is it actually is beyond the 25, which is very clear.
right.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the critical, and then it's,
Right.
that it is further back.
So it's outside the 25 all the way around.
Yes,
Definitely.
Yeah.
yeah. And that's obvious because that 25-foot mark is clearly on there, and they're a good 15 to 20 feet beyond that, minimally,
that's it,
even just
There
eyeballing
you
it.
go, yeah.
Yeah.
that's the dotted line there, so they're
So basically, all we got to rule on is that where the building is located, it's less non-conforming than what it,
There's less non-conforming, and once we're done looking at trees and things like that, that is,
That's the next
between the
question.
trees and the ledge.
trees still played in
It
it,
is still
right?
the greatest practical extent,
Okay.
so. Bruce, feel,
Take your, thunder away on that.
No, I know, but I tend to be wordy. I always give too much information, but sorry about that.
it's not a bad thing.
So where are we, Steve? Well,
basically, we're looking at, about the only other question I've got that's not noted on here would be, that would be of concern to me as far as setbacks goes, is a proposed location for the septic tank, which, with today's technology, can be literally underneath the parking area or beside the building. As long as it's not within the property setback would be,
The septic tank.
The septic tank.
because we've already determined the field, but,
a while back, remember they had to, before it was accepted, they had to have the septic tank cover letter and all that, remember that, Sam? I can't remember which one it was. So that could be part of the conditions, right, that part be included in the approval for the, because you said it's not shown?
well, actually, the septic tank is going to be part of the septic design, because you are replacing the septic system
Right,
that's
which
there
we have. and
currently,
it's-
which, that again that has to be done by the state rules, but that's, you don't have to,
But have they, We don't have it on our diagrams, but
No,
have
but
they
they
decided
have-
where it's going to be?
They have a permit. I mean, an application, and I think,
But does it indicate where the tank is going to be?
It does, it says the water on the HHE 200, which was submitted by Doug Meservey. It says the watertight septic tank must be 50 feet minimum from the well and shore, 10-foot minimum from the property lines, and 8-foot minimum from the buildings.
Those are the requirements, but you haven't, within those parameters, determined where you're going to put it.
We have not shown it yet.
At that point in time, as long as they have to be, they're gonna have to be held to that, because I
Right.
can't approve the septic system unless they do.
Right, that's what, John, that's what you were saying, is you
Right,
make that a
we
condition.
approved, we approved one, I can't remember which one it was, the one out to the lake with the red oaks, remember, we had, part of that deal was that they had to have the cover letter for the code officer, whatever it was.
that was a
Yeah.
change from seasonal to year-round.
That was,
It was
yeah,
also-
That was just a letter.
But it was also changing the size of the building within the shoreline zone.
Yes, but the septic part of it, you made a condition of approval
Right.
based on the letter.
yeah.
Yes.
And the nice thing about septic tanks is they make one that you actually can put under a parking lot. You can really drive on it. So it's not insurmountable to do it.
You can drive on it without incident.
You can drive on it without incident, yes. Make a specially classified tank for that.
Could you walk us through a little bit about the grade and that ledge you've mentioned, and the effect that that might have on?
Sure. Looking back at that sheet A101, that
Yeah,
may be the best
the
place
big
to see
sheet,
it.
Yeah, that we have here. and
So you'll see that,
Yes,
you
that
see the diagram of the house
Yeah.
in gray,
Yeah.
and then you see the octagonal, the existing house is octagonal.
Yeah.
So you see how it moves away, up away from the water. And then to the left of the gray footprint of the house, you'll see two cars parked there, diagram of two cars. See that?
It's a little bit.
Drive. It's different.
Very, very light in the dark gray area.
Oh, there,
Can I point?
you can point them out, sure.
They're right here. They're really faint rectangles.
I need new glasses.
Oh, okay.
Mine's
So-
printed
Yeah,
really
I know,
dark.
So
this
it's-
is the area, right?
You see that, John?
Okay, now they pointed
You can barely see the cars, but yes.
Oh, now I see them.
Yeah, they're very faint.
So those lines that are very close together show. the
Oh, this
ledge
is the topo going up,
Yes.
yeah.
So where is the ledge cropping?
That's this whole area.
Right here?
uh-huh.
So
Okay.
those contour lines have numbers on them? I didn't,
They do on our survey.
Probably not on
I'm trying to
here.
get an idea of, I can see
Yeah.
how close they are, but how steep is that?
It's,
Basically, it looks like 1 foot in contours, it looks
Yeah,
like.
it's 10 feet to the top, so it goes from 153
Up to there?
yeah.
Okay.
10 feet up in the,
So it rises 10
Clearly
feet
shown
over
on
what
the
distance?
survey.
One of those lines is 2 feet.
It's 2 feet, thank you.
okay, so this survey here is showing it a little bit. There's some numbers on there, 155, 160. I don't know, I don't see a base number there, but,
153 is kind of at the
Yeah,
base of it,
Okay.
and then 163 is kind of at the top of it.
so there's a 10-foot difference,
Yes.
yeah.
And that ledge, it's not an exposed ledge right now. It's got a lot of trees. It's actually, it looks like quite a complex ecosystem. A lot of fallen trees on it, and it looks like a real place of habitat too, potential habitat for.
So the intention is to pin the foundation to the ledge to carry that corner, or what?
No, we're going to try and keep it away about 20 feet from that, and that's between the foundation. There may be ledge at that point, down 2 or 3 feet, but we're leaving the space about 20 feet between the foundation and where the ledge starts to really come up for two cars to be able to park.
Okay.
So you're coming right over, on the survey map, you're coming over into this existing parking area here. So
Correct. We're
taking
kind of-
that over as part of your footprint.
Yeah, we're sort of, right, exactly. Yeah, so we're also trying not to create a lot more, well, there's not going to be any paved area there, but we're trying to create as little even gravel area there anymore than already exists.
Is it all gravel, it's all impermeable or permeable?
It's all permeable, we will be staying with that, and our calculations here take that into account, so we're staying within our permeable limits.
I haven't been out there in years.
Yeah, no, I've seen the octagon, but I've never really been up close.
I spent a lot of time out there recently because they're working on the camp next door.
Okay.
Yes.
New septic.
So,
Any other questions from any of us here on?
so as far as the tree part of it, you're gonna address that as they move forward, or do we have to?
As far as replanting, basically what the board is going to come to is a consensus that it doesn't physically it's going to cause more damage to go further back, which I think is the case Bruce is making. If you get into that ecosystem, you get into that ledge, you're going to have more of an environmental impact than if you keep minimal parking back there and
But the ones
keep the
like
building.
we've done in the past, if they replant somewhere else, is that
Correct, and
still?
that's basically what we've got to do is deal with that in the landscaping plan, because they've established the size of the trees and the location of the trees. Now I work it through the DEP's formula to figure out what the points are, and we figure out, based on that, what we can put back as far as replantings.
So we don't have to identify, just gonna say that if any,
Yeah, basically,
just a landscaping plan needs to be provided to you.
correct, and that's part of the regular permitting. The biggest thing we want to make sure of is that, again, many eyes make for light work, that there isn't an option to, and not that I think there is, because I really don't, haven't been out there, that there isn't an option to move back further on this property and still accomplish the same thing, but you're dealing with once you get past where the building is now, that lot gets really narrow and restricted between the ledge and trees,
So
everything else.
as you move back, it's kind of a wedge that gets,
Yeah, it gets squeezed in there quickly.
yeah.
John, the tree issue comes with the moving back part, not the replanting.
I know,
Yeah.
but I recall that we had the discussion that the guy before, when we talked about on, what was that? Remember what that was?
That was Canaan Lane.
And we decided that the ones he removed to put the new house in, that he had to replant them elsewhere on the property
Yeah,
somewhere.
yeah, and we've already talked with Bruce, and Bruce is very conscious of canopy and openings in the canopy when he was laying this out, so I gotta give Bruce credit, back at initial design stage, before he'd even started trying to lay out a house, we had a number of conversations regarding this site, and his staff has been in touch with me all the way through, trying to get
You can see
input.
they've been trying to be very sensitive to the neighbors in the area,
Yeah.
which I commend you guys for that,
Yeah,
very good job.
If everybody worked this well, my job would be much easier.
Yeah, but then,
The tree issue is not just a matter of numbers of trees, right?
It's not a matter of
They're a part of
numbers.
an
it's-
ecosystem.
Right, we're trying to make at least impact on on the environment out there as we can, and actually trying to improve it by getting the house itself away. And if there are some unhealthy trees, it's not gonna hurt to remove those, to move the house back, as long as we can mitigate them somewhere else in the
Right,
process.
but I think, Bruce, you said earlier that there's not much understory
Correct.
in this area, so.
On the ledge there is, but
Right.
not where the house is.
Yeah.
So whatever ecosystem is going on in addition to the trees is down under the soil.
Right, and that's, we're trying to keep impervious area, runoff, everything out of the lake. So we've got a chance to, by moving this house back and building it to current standards, it's gonna require gutters, so some of the roof runoff is gonna be taken care of and put into under drains, so you're gonna have less of a chance of erosion.
And we did meet with Robert Cochran out there, because I wanted to be able to come to you and say, the arborist agrees that the trees that we're taking down are not going to harm the bigger canopy of that site, and that was indeed his opinion, and he also identified some trees that really need to come down for safety
Well, most of
reasons.
these, at least as noted on this diagram, are dead, dying, or severely damaged.
There are a lot.
It's a
but-
lot of trees.
But it's, yeah, but there still are a lot out there. It's kind of, to some degree, those trees have been taken care of over the years. Some are compromised, but there's some pretty amazing, healthy trees out there too.
You also said that DEP plays a role in the trees too, right?
But there's a certain formula we have to go through as far as points and maintaining those points, maintaining the canopy. So, I mean, we look at that holistically as part of the process. That's why I say, just the fact that they're actually on this original survey, Darlene Dorsey being well aware of that, has mapped not only the locations, but the size of the trees.
I'm all set.
Any other? Questions?
Oh, I don't see. The only way to make it even more non-conform, or less non-conforming, would be to have the size of the house instead of increasing the volume. In other words, you could move it back further if you basically cut it in half. But I don't see any other options than that for creating space.
Right, and of course, it's hard to identify what's a modest-sized house, but these clients have come to us. I mean, it's not a tiny house, but it's got 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a single kind of living room, dining room, kitchen space, and a porch, and that's kind of it. So it's definitely not a mansion that
Right.
we're building there.
It's not a Rhode Island cottage.
No.
By code, they could make it slightly bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30%.
Yeah.
So is this it for the enlargement, once this is approved?
Once this is approved, this plan and this design gets recorded at the registry. And if someone wanted to come back and they've got, 5% left, they wanted to add a little bump somewhere that would get them that 5% that's not increasing the nonconformity, they could at that time come back. But this gets actually recorded so we know exactly what percentages have been used and where in the registry forever, which is one of the nice things DEP did with this update, is now there's an ironclad way to track this rather than wait till the next code officer comes on and come back for another edition.
So if we approve this, if our work is done, then you take over on the tree issue?
I take over on the tree issue, and once we get the actual building in place and approved, a plat of that gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds with all the information that Bruce has already provided. Basically, the A1.01 gets recorded because that spells it all out as to what the shape of this building is, what the expansions are, and how much was used up.
But this doesn't go beyond the code enforcement, right? It doesn't go to planning board, because it's
No,
not.
no, this one's where it's a single-family residential home is all within that once we deal with the non-conforming relocation.
If you look at page, Roman numeral 6-8, there's a section on trees that talks about,
I'm fine with it, I was just raising the question, that's all, I'm good.
okay.
Okay, because we had brought it up in prior application, that's why I was asking. That's all, just to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you, though, Judy.
And if for some reason, and anything other than a very minor field change due to, we found a rock or we found a vernal pool or something that requires a minor adjustment, anything big has to come back to the board to be approved anyway. And that's right in our.
I think you're
ordinance.
being hopeful, though, that ledge is not gonna be under that building, because this is Maine, that's one of the,
It could very well be.
once that.
Oh, I
crop-
might have misunderstood your question. Yeah, we're sort of counting that there's probably some ledge there, although the existing house has a full basement, which we're kind of surprised. So we're going to, we're not counting on being able to use any of that space. But if we can, we'll build the basement as deep as we can.
Otherwise, it'll conform to whatever it may be, just a frost wall, or,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So there is a crawl space underneath?
It's pretty, yeah, it's like 7 feet tall. It's actually pretty sizable in the existing building.
That's full size for me.
Yeah, no, it's generous.
But they may have dynamited it out or dug it out one day at the
Yeah.
time, when they built that.
Yeah.
You may
They did.
find one little area to put your utilities in, and then everything else is crawl space. You never know until you start digging.
Well, so
that's
now
a-
we need to,
So,
go to public hearing.
are there any final questions while we're in a public hearing? And since there are no members of the public here and no comments from the public, I would move that we close the public hearing.
So move.
Any
I'll
discussion?
second it.
All right, moved and seconded, we're going to close the public hearing. All those in favor? Okay, now, we're going to go down through the finding of facts here and deliberation on non-conforming
What do I do with
structures in
that?
shoreland.
Hold on. I moved it.
Jeannie's done a good job of laying out the findings of fact here, but we need to go through for the record. Anybody want to take over? Deb, you want to read one of those? And move it?
I move with this first one, right?
Yep.
That we find as a fact that this property is located at 55 Coleman Island Road, tax map 106, lot 8, and is in the Rural 2 district.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor?
I'll keep going.
You're on a roll.
You're doing a great
Or let
job.
Tia take one.
I move that we find as a fact that this property is owned by the applicants Matthew and Sarah Lapidus, who have shown standing to make this application.
Second?
Any discussion?
What's that?
Those in favor?
Oh, excuse me. I moved to find the fact that the zoning board of appeals is charged with review of the applications of change to a non-conforming structure in the shoreline zone as described in Article 6, Section 6.
Second?
Discussion? Those in favor? My turn. To finding of fact that the applicant before the board is for a change of a non-conforming structure located in the shoreland setback of McGonagall Lake and is therefore subject to review by the board, by this board.
Second.
Discussion? Those in favor? Okay, so now we need to look at Article, what is it, 6, Section 6. To determine whether or not this section applies to the application.
Boy, this is nice. This book.
Pared right down, isn't it, John?
It's real easy. So we're at 6,
662.
Changes in non-conforming structures in shoreland areas, and it's 2. We start with 2. Which is foundations.
Right.
When a new, enlarged, or replaced foundation is constructed under a non-conforming structure, the structure and new foundation must be placed such that the setback requirement is met to the greatest practical extent and determined by the zoning board of appeals or its designees, designatees, based on its decision on the criteria specified in section 12C3 relocation below.
That's an incorrect site, but it's 6-3.
Okay.
I
6,
corrected it, the new ordinance was,
section 6.3,
yes, A and B.
okay. So, I think the applicant has done a pretty good job presenting the case that new structure,
If it's easier for you,
Makes the
Sam, you
setback.
actually can, if you
just
actually
go-
look at the criteria under 3A below.
yeah,
pretty much-
non-conforming
and
structure.
that pretty much gives you your motion right there, if you
Yeah,
want to use that.
that a non-conforming structure may be located within the boundaries of the parcel on which the structure is located, provided the site of the relocation conforms to all setback requirements to the greatest practical extent as determined by the zoning board of appeals, and provided that the applicant demonstrates that the present subsurface sewage disposal system meets the requirements of the state law, State of Maine subsurface wastewater disposal rules, or that a new system can be installed in compliance with the law and said rules. In no case shall a structure be relocated in a manner that causes the structure to be more non-conforming.
I'd like to move that this applies, whatever, that meets that criteria.
Second?
Thank you.
Any further discussion on that? Basically,
Is this where we have a condition about,
The applicant actually has a septic redesign available that's been done by Doug Meservy, who I know
it's
is,
just- is it, that there's a condition that that be followed?
yeah, basically, that's going to end up, I have to review it and issue the permit on it, so as long as they have that available, you can approve based on,
Based
them
on
getting,
that
based
plan?
on that plan being approved.
Okay, based on that plan being approved.
That's a condition you want to add?
Yes.
Okay, I'll second that.
any more discussion on that? Those in favor?
I'm not quite sure what just happened, but.
So we don't need to make a motion on the landscaping, right? Because you're going to deal with that going forward.
Gee, what I was trying to do was say that that approval that we were voting on was subject to the condition.
Of the septic design being
So
approved,
you were addressing the septic system?
the relocation.
Right.
'cause
Which
it's
is
in-
part of
it's part of
6.3A.
this.
Right.
Could you do that in all one motion?
It was 6.3A with the condition the new septic design be approved. I can work that one through with you.
So is that an approval of the application? Because that's where I'm confused.
This
You
is,
were,
I made a motion that they met the criteria of this language for the relocation.
For
And then
6.3A.
then Deb added a condition that the septic be included.
we still have to deal with 6.3B
Right.
and
Yeah, so it's not approving the full
see,
application.
that's what I missed.
Yeah, no, it's meeting,
This
we're
is-
agreeing that it met
6.3A
6.3A.
Which,
is
yeah,
this one.
which is basically approving,
No, not yet, we still got to deal with
I know, but-
B. It's,
and never mind.
yeah,
Okay.
So are we on to B now, or did we?
Yes.
We
Okay.
voted on, yeah.
In determining whether the building relocation meets the setback to the greatest practical extent, the zoning board of appeals shall consider the lot size, the slope of the land, the potential for soil erosion, the location of other structures on the property, and on adjacent properties, the location of septic system and other on-site soils suitable for septic systems, the type and amount of vegetation to be removed, to accomplish the relocation, when it's necessary to remove vegetation within the water or wetland setback area in order to relocate a structure, the zoning board of appeals shall require replanting of native vegetation to compensate for destroyed vegetation in accordance with Article 10, Part 1, Section 117. In addition, the area from which the relocated structure was removed must be replanted with vegetation. Replanting shall be required as follows.
You don't need to keep.
Don't need to be.
Well, part of the motion would just be a condition that the landscaping be approved by the code officer before the final permit, right?
right, and that's pretty much, this is the criteria that I have to follow.
So do we need to say that, or just approve the language for
If you-
6.3?
Yeah, if you want to approve the language for 6.3 and that the plan is to apply to, is to comply with 6.3, that, based on your approval, that works.
That says it all, I mean.
Right,
it's-
that says
it's got-
exactly, and if you agree that there's no, I mean, there's no apparent option in your eyes that they can set back any further, and that they're gonna comply with this section, you can approve from there.
Right, because as you said earlier, some of this stuff is outside of our purview, whatever,
Right.
because it's DEP, it's you, and,
It falls into enforcement.
I mean, we can make some motions in there about the size of the lot and the ledge outcropping if,
Yes, I think that would be,
Just make some findings.
just make some findings based
yeah.
on those factors, and that, you know, you've
Yeah.
tasked me with following up on the revegetation and the
so
replanting.
this is the one we do the finding of facts in? Will we find that the location of the building is such because of ledge outcropping that
Yes.
prevents it from being moved
Exactly.
back any further on the property?
Yes, exactly.
How's that? Is that one?
This one, nice.
Is that a second?
Second, second.
any more discussion on John's motion? Those in favor? Potential for soil erosion. I'm assuming that all practical and required silt fencing and erosion control will be in place before anything.
Yes,
Gets
it
done.
it has to be by DEP
Yes.
law, or it's a $10,000
Yeah.
fine.
Generally,
Nobody ever likes those.
yeah. Any comment on that from you, Bruce, or?
That will be part of our building. I was, oh, sorry. My understanding is that that would be part of our building application.
Yeah. Okay. I know that that's a, you know, an ongoing contributor, even when it's done to the best practical extent. It's an ongoing contribution to the degradation of our freshwater lakes, just as a matter of process even. So that's why I bring it up, because I think it's very important.
Yeah, since I've been back, I've been instituting where the erosion control goes in, and it gets inspected prior to them moving any earth.
There's probably not a lot of soils there anyway, because there's a lot of ledge and stuff all the way to the shore.
Right, but they will be doing some digging, so they need to have
Right,
best
control
best
that,
management practices.
So those are part of the application process, Steve?
Yes, and that's actually a required inspection now.
So we could say that the potential for soil erosion has been addressed, whether or not moving back means excavation or activity.
Been addressed to use, to acceptable practices before the permit can be issued.
Yes, they have to illustrate, they have to illustrate best
that?
management practice and follow.
Second.
Did you get that, Jeannie? We kind of double
No.
dipped on that.
No.
Okay.
I can work through that one with you, too.
I can listen to the tape.
Yeah,
Okay. Location of other structures on the properties, I think the packet shows that you're actually.
Vote on that one, though.
Oh,
I
we got to
seconded,
vote
we
on
didn't
that,
vote,
sorry,
though,
sorry.
Erosion.
Yeah.
Last motion back up here, it's any, I'll second it.
Well, we already seconded
We
it.
second- we just
Tia
have to
seconded
vote.
it. I made the motion.
No further discussion, those in favor? So location of other structures, I think the plan shows that you're actually going to take one down.
About this big, yes.
That's being eliminated completely or relocated?
It's being eliminated completely.
Okay.
And everything else is outside of the zone anyway, so it's not, the garage is way down.
yeah, you have to pack a lunch to go to the garage.
It's gonna be quite a hoof for the rainstorm.
The septic system subject, has that been completely, that's been completely addressed through what's in the application packet and your requirements?
Already approved.
Yeah, and you also
Based on
made a
the-
motion
On it.
that that was a condition.
The type and amount of vegetation to be removed to accomplish the relocation, there's a fairly elaborate plan in place, I think. If you want to give us any more comment on that, Bruce, or?
I don't have a whole lot more to say than what we did, but
Okay.
each of those trees was specifically tagged by the arborist as ones that he thought should come down or needed to come down because they're in the footprint of the house.
And then the revegetating,
Oh,
actually, is that something we need to,
No, because that's actually a condition of,
It's
under
outside of
3I, so it has to have at least one native tree, 3 feet in height for every tree removed, and then I also have to look at the Article 10, Part 1, Section 1, which covers the point system and
How many of these trees have canopy from the caterpillars?
I don't know yet. We were just
Yeah.
there this afternoon and one kind of looked potentially compromised, but
The oaks up in there?
a few oaks.
Yeah, because that's what they like.
most of them are actually on the other side of the channel from
Is
there,
that right?
luckily. So the worst degradation is over on Beaucaire Ave in that area, so.
Yeah, I
They haven't-
haven't been up, but I heard it's bad.
It's totally
swung.
defoliated trees.
Yeah, they haven't swam over the other side of the channel yet.
Somebody's telling me it looked like wintertime with no leaves on.
No, they just moved on to crab apples.
Yeah. So, what
Any
do we do
more?
with that?
well, I don't know if we need to,
Let's try it doesn't
I think
apply.
you've already covered that one,
already
so.
covered that. So we're getting close to the final finding of fact here. Does anybody have any further questions and deliberation for the applicant here?
No.
We need to move to make that final
We
finding.
do need to move.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure everybody's.
Yep.
We have to have a second public hearing? Or are we good?
I think due to the large public turnout, you're probably okay with just.
Well, they've been very calm tonight, quiet. Doing that.
I knew you were coming, John.
Yes.
Keep it down.
So far, the home audience hasn't been calling in, so.
Is that something you want to, do you want to do that, Deb?
We can try.
Sure.
So what's the language you used, Jeannie?
Right here, right here. This-
Right
Right
here.
here with us, right here? With the
That
applicant?
I move that we, that we have what is it, that we have that we found, no,
Based on
we
the
find,
findings.
we find as a matter of fact, that the new location, the proposed location conforms to all setback requirements to the greatest practical extent.
Any further discussion on that one?
Second that one.
It's been moved and seconded. Those in favor? So that pretty much brings us home, so I would propose that we approve this application. Did we have some conditions on there?
Well, the Septic one.
Yeah.
The septic one.
In the tree
And the tree-
replantings.
yeah.
And let's see, what are the names?
You just say conditions noted above this.
Right.
We'll get you there.
Okay. I would move that we approve the application before us for property owners Matthew and Sarah Lepides, located at 55 Codman Island Road, Camden, Maine. Reconstruction or replacement
Of a non-conforming.
of a non-conforming structure.
Second.
Those in favor? The application's approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Would you like to have your paperwork back? Because we have a lot of it.
Recycle?
If you need it.
I can recycle it for you,
Yeah,
too.
we
if
can
you want.
recycle it or.
Nice job with the package.
We need to figure out how to make the erosion control, shredded plant.
Sure.
Now, there's a concept.
Hey, yeah.
You're going to give them all that?
Yes.
There's your newest endeavor, Bruce.
Better try.
figure out how to make erosion control out of shredded paper.
We are tightening up.
Figure out how to
That's
make
good. We'll
erosion
get the
control out of
language
shredded
down.
paper.
That was quick.
Can you just
I mean,
come up with it?
what time?
Yeah.
That's a speed record.
That is a speed record. Good job.
That is pretty
A lot
good.
of information.
Well, there
I
was
had
a
to mention
lot, yeah.
about the,
There was a lot of stuff we didn't have.
Oh, right.
I spent a lot of
That's
time.
I was
usually,
reading
No,
that.
I was
did
reading
too.
over
I'm
this
reading
and
this
I
stuff, I
thought,
said, we don't need this.
no.
Well, see, you knew that. I didn't.
Well, the only reason I knew that, because Steve Kidd put it in my head, we need to know where it fits on the world, that's it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Basically, you just keep it, if we keep the focus down, this is good.
Do they need to record this one? Because they moved back?
Yeah, once we get the final plan done and approved, they get their building permit, we get that final plan recorded.
Then
At the
we'll have to
registry.
have them sign.
No,
some-
the applicant has to record it.
Yeah, but they have to have a signed plan to record
Right,
at the registry.
yeah, they'll have to come back with the signed plan, and we'll work with you on that.
So when you're ready to go to
Yeah,
Rockland.
yeah, we'll have it at a future meeting and have everybody come in and sign the actual approved plan.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's not a little time.
Yeah,
You plan to start building this year?
We would love to, we've got a lot of drawing to do before then, but they really want to do the foundation this fall at the very least, because, number one, you guys know Codman Island Road is terrible in spring, it's like beyond terrible. And two, if we can get the foundation in and start construction, it will disturb the neighbors less next summer.
Because they'll be around in the winter.
Oh, I know.
You might be able to build, if it's an open winter.
Oh, right, yeah.
do you have a contractor or?
Yeah, Cold Mountain Builders.
You the one doing Reed stuff, or is that?
Yep.
Are you going to blast if you have to? Not at all, okay, because we have a blasting ordinance now, so
Okay.
just,
Yeah,
We'll
we're
blast
really
it.
sort of anti-blasting.
yeah, good.
It really messes
Especially
up-
on
it
the
messes up
lake.
Aquifers and everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we don't need it. We
Yeah.
don't need that space, they're not counting on
Okay,
have experience that you can pull up ledge with a big enough excavator.
it. Yeah, really? You've
It
done
can
it?
be done, yes, I've done
can be hammered.
it. To create space for, furnace or whatever.
We're still figuring out, like, I don't know what equipment we can get onto that site. It's, it's not a site that we're gonna be able to get a crane onto, so it's gonna be challenging.
Just because of the vegetation, you
The
mean?
road.
You can get a small boom truck down in there, but that's about it. You're not gonna get a full-blown crane.
We're
Well,
also,
you'll get it down there, may not get it back.
No, you're not gonna get it down there, trust me. I've been down there with my truck. It's not going.
What is it, just this narrow?
Very narrow, and you'd have to knock down about 4 trees to get an actual crane in there to make some of the corners.
we're also going to try to mill some of the wood that we're taking down.
Oh.
Use it in the house.
What is it? Is it pine
Well,
or?
there, yeah, there's a couple of magnificent white pines that are,
That are not dead or dying?
They're located on the tree plan within the footprint of the new building, but we are restricted, upon how long we can cut them based on the equipment we can get out, so we can only do 8.5-foot lengths. So we can't get really long wood out of it, unfortunately.
what's
but-
the bank like
Oh,
up
the 8
there?
it's,
It's fairly steep.
Is it?
Yeah, exactly, we can't use it for beams or anything, but,
Yeah.
interior finishes,
Yeah.
cabinetry, stuff like that.
Super.
great, thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good luck with the project.
Yeah, thank you.
Summertime now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one thing we want to look at possibly having, whatever works for everybody next month, having a training meeting, because we're going to be talking with Bill Kelly, who's supposed to be in tomorrow. We'll keep you kind of posted on that, but just to give everybody a chance to get up to speed when we can get a full board here. Plus typically this week would be when the meeting when we do election of officers. I might recommend the board postpone that until there is a full board available.
Otherwise, we could just
Can you
elect who
read
we
out?
want, right?
Okay, are you gonna?
I can, yeah.
Oh, please, please, please.
will, yeah.
You're hostage until you find a replacement.
Did they vote me back in? I told them I wanted it.
Probably, they're not,
Did your term expire?
Yes.
Yes.
It-
Until this month, it expires this week. The board knows it, I said,
I don't think they did appointments last time.
no,
I don't know,
No,
yeah,
it'll be next time.
yeah, so next time, so you're on until replaced, so.
Yeah, until replaced.
well, no. Sunday nights at midnight, I just,
You turn into a frog?
You're considered reappointed until replaced.
So you let us know what you have for.
Yeah, as soon as we get a hold of Bill Kelly, I'll let you know, we'll do it on a regular
Was
night.
that
if-
last week of July? Is that good for people? Is it visitors coming? That's
Thursday of the last week.
the Thursday of the fourth week. I don't know whether it's the July.
July, yeah, it would be the 25th.
probably the best one to start off with is ask John how the tree
Yeah.
schedule's going, so we can work around him, you know, because it's been a while.
Yeah, and we'll kind of reach out to everybody and we'll put it out to every,
Yeah, July.
yeah, be the 20,
25th,
be looking at like the
Oh.
25th, so.
yeah.
But we'll keep everybody posted and, you know, and play around with it from there.
Too crazy in the summer.
No, I'm trying to keep the workload light.
Right, in the summertime, yeah.
There would have had to have been an application in to meet in 2 more weeks. I would have to have received.
And it's nothing.
So not in the
No.
2 weeks, but no.
We've had 4 now
Yeah,
in very short time.
and that's one thing at this next meeting, I'm gonna have all the minutes ready. If you can review them ahead of time, and if there are not substantial changes, I'll go ahead and draft the notice and orders that will need to be signed. Okay,
Yeah.
so, but
So you'll
meet
have those
everybody.
ready
Yeah,
at the next meeting?
At the next meeting, whenever we have it.
Supposed to sign those drawings that.
He's got to do some more tweaking on them. He's got to actually put a signature block on them and do a few more things on them, but we'll get them when the final notice and order. So I'll work with him on those.
Final house stuff on it too, and all.
Yeah,
yeah, the septic should be
yeah,
there.
because he'll start processing those drawings now so we can nail everything down.
That is gonna be a tough site to build it.
Yeah,
I was wondering if they could barge stuff over, but it's too steep there, because that guy has that, Mike Mullins has that
Yeah,
barge.
he's been using that a lot.
Yeah, yes.
yeah, they'd actually, they would do,
Even get trying to get the cement truck down in there, it's gonna be a blast.
They've done it before, but they might have followed it with a bulldozer.
Sure.
yeah, they want to make sure it's when it's good dry season, because they'll sink real quick down in
Don't
there.
have those anymore, Steve.
Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. I've been the one that's wading into my
Oh, you
knees.
must be, scheduling it must be horrible.
Seems like it's
Most
all-
everybody's patient, but we've lost 6 weeks due to rain.
Yeah,
6 weeks.
yeah, it's just not forgiving.
That's a lot out of the season.
It is, it's,
Plus they lost the hay, because it's like, because the grass is. it's
How,
too wet.
they lost
Pardon?
2 cycles, you said?
This cycle here, they said because all they're doing now is they're using those, what are they doing, spin it up and then
right,
use it for
those don't
feed.
have to be dry.
Right, because they can't bale it, that's why they're doing that.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, you can't store it. It'll be a,
Still some fields that farmers can't get into plant.
Yeah, I saw it stuck tractor on 17.
yeah, there's fields they can't mow even,
Guy was
too.
in a place where he'd never gotten stuck before, thing was right up to the seat.
Ooh,
I think, step off and sit there.
Right, that's it.
Yeah,
that tractor may be there for a while.
yeah,
That'd be expensive.
We'll look forward then to give us the time for the.
yeah,
So we
and,
need to get
and if everybody liked how this works, we'll continue.
Oh,
The
yeah, that was
27th,
very
when
helpful.
we have a training, it'll be a combination.
in July.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Would you, if you think of it, instead of landing 4 applications at once with all the minutes, kind of give us a little bit of time so we can read through them and kind of refresh our.
yes, I'll get him as soon as
Oh, I
I
know that,
can
but
get
I
him
mean,
to you.
yeah. As soon as there's one set done, we'll send it out.
right,
Yeah.
versus having 4.
Yeah.
at once.
Yeah,
And the trees. The only time that you need to talk about whether or not trees are going to, is if they would need to come down to be moved back further.
In this case, it does. It
Even
does.
further. Even-
Yeah.
I know that.
so like, you
The
know,
reason I asked was because the guy that had the application made it about the trees, remember?
Right.
And so that's when the tree, we put the condition in, that he follow the arborist objection.
Right, that was because that one tree is the reason he couldn't move back.
Right, but he also took trees out to put the new foundation.
And but that's
In
already
this case, though,
mandated.
they're taking trees down. All I just
Yeah.
want to make in the minutes that say that it'll come under review with Steve.
Yeah.
Right.
When it goes through the process.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's one of the things that would keep you from moving back even further.
I know that.
yeah.
Okay, that's the part that is.
I know I talked to you.
So
No.
if
No.
there's a tree that, you can take a tree down, if that would allow you to move back.
If
further,
the,
that would-
for example, if that lot was perfectly flat,
Right,
and it's, to back the house out of the setback, there's no reason they can't take down 4 or 5 trees and replant them as long as the lot's flat. But I mean, they were gonna do more damage to that,
Right,
yeah.
that ledge area in the ecosystem as a result of that, because they'd be blasting ledge and hammering ledge. and
Exactly.
It makes no sense to do that, but if that had been a perfectly flat lot without that outcropping, they could have physically moved further back, because they could have even said, okay, your parking lot can go.
Well, that,
right, or they could move even back out of the 100, and you would still be taking down trees. And there's so you say that too much environmental damage, it's better off where they.
where they put it.
That's how you get, that's
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, it's just looking for that balance. It's-
The rest is already mandated by DEP. And it never hurts to make a record that they're taking down as few as they can,
Yeah.
and most of them.
Earn.
Did you order dinner?
Well, we can.